Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to go over some very basic SRT training, all the way from getting your line into the tree, doing some base ties, advancing your line once in the canopy, going out on some limb walks and some other tips and tricks. A lot of this you've probably already been told and might have already seen, but it's quite hard to explain, especially to a new climber, how to do certain techniques without seeing it firsthand. So I'm going to try and get some good footage for you and explain it along the way. So this is quickly how to throw a line into a tree. When you've got a larger tree like this, it doesn't really suffice just throwing your line over the lowest branch and trying to advance, because you'd just be stuck under that first larger limb, and you'd really struggle to get yourself over. If you were a good shot and you're feeling strong, maybe you'll be able to bundle your line and throw it over that limb there. But on a larger tree you kind of need to have a throw line, so I'll show you what we have. So this is just a throw line in a throw cube. They're quite expensive. People can use little baskets and buckets and all sorts, but the cube probably is the best option. It collapses down and expands up. This is just some cord. This is kind of a cheaper version. It's a tree hog cord. It's like a nylon-y plastic. The better sort of kind is a bit more like string. It tends to not knot up as easy, but this is what we have today. You have a weighted sandbag with a leaf on it. Get that leaf off. Weighted sandbag. This is 220 grams. They tend to be in ounces, 16 ounces or 12 ounces. There's benefits of a lighter and heavier bag, just depending on how you throw it. I would typically try and stick to one weight, because switching between two different types of weights will throw off your game, especially when you're starting off. So it's a lot easier when you've got a consistent weight. Because we're doing SRT, I don't really need to isolate a limb. I can throw over and through the canopy. That's the benefits of SRT. If I was doing DRT, it'd be exactly the same, but you just have to isolate a limb. So we're going to go right for the top, somewhere here for now. This is called the cradle technique. So you pass one of the lines through the ring, you create like a cradle, and you do like a pendulum swing between your legs, and you release right at the right time. So we'll give that a go. Once you've got it round a suitable anchor, most throw bags have a little clip at the bottom, so you can use a little tool clip, carabiner, and then onto a spliced eye or a knot, like so, and pull it up. Another way is you can take the bag off, so because it's on a loop. If you didn't have the loop, you could do a clove or something like that, but I like to pass a bite through, put it through there so it's choked on itself, and then just do a couple of half hitches from the top. If you're really nervous about it coming off, you can do a clove at the top, but that tends to be enough. So now it's all tied on to my rope, you just feed it back into the bag, like so. Just take the half hitches off, and you're ready to go. Now we've got two lines on the floor, so you want to choose which is going to be the best for access. So we're going to come up this side of the tree, so we're going to keep this as the working end, and we're going to use this as the base tie end. So what I mean by a base tie is a basal anchor. You can do things called canopy anchors, where you tie the tie-off point is in the top of the tree, but for basic ascents, a basal anchor works the best, because this isn't isolated. Two ends are coming down on two different ends of the tree, so the best way is to do a basal anchor around the stem. So we've got quite a fat stem here, a lovely sycamore. Climbed this tree before, so you just want enough so you can go round the tree. This is the most basic basal anchor you can do without any extra pieces of equipment. You just walk round the tree with the rope without slipping over. And you just do a running bow line, this end of the line onto the other end of the line. ignore the horribly flayed end. I need to sort that out. It's taped up, I just need to get the hot knife on it. So you do a bow line, and then you need a stopper knot. You do a figure of 8, you can do a granny knot, whatever you want to do, or a Yosemite tie. So there you go. It's now choked on the bottom side of the tree. This leaves us with this end. You can tension that up, and that's not going anywhere. Some people worry that it's going to slip up the tree. I guarantee it's not. Especially on this diameter, there's so much friction there, it's not going to slide up, and there's other limbs to prevent it, even if it did. Now for what system I'm going to be climbing on. I'm going to be climbing on the hitch climber with rope wrench setup, the IC rope wrench. I've got the rope tether. I see they've made a new one of these, the ISC rope wrench. It'll be interesting to see what they're like with the sliding top plate here. I feel like it's got a metal tether as well. I might have to get myself one of them. I've done a video on how to tie this knot before. A few different types. So like always, I like to do a slip knot just because it gives you a place to put this hitch climber. Frees up some of your hands. Put that on there. Get rid of the rope wrench on the rope. Slide it out the way. I'm going to do a VT, so I like to bring it behind once, twice, 3 times, maybe 4 times. There's a bit of glazing on this hitch climber, so I might need to replace that soon. Bring the back end down and then under, spin it around. It's perfect for me. Very important for you guys to play around with what works best. Different weights, different ropes, the age of the rope, the wearing of the hitch cord, the type of rope wrench you have. That'll all play a factor into how to get the smoothest descent. You want it to be smooth, nice and easy, but you want it to grip every time. Quite a common thing, if it's tied wrong or not as many wraps, is you'll have to keep tending it, and it will sometimes make you slip down the tree, and it's not a nice feeling. So that's perfect for me. I've played around with this system and perfected that for my body weight and body type. The next thing you want to do is make sure you've got a stopper knot. I've seen horrific videos of people falling out of trees, sliding right off the end, so stopper knot is a must, even though they can be very frustrating going through tight forks. So just put one of them in. Some additional pieces of equipment you'll need for SRT. A foot ascender. This is a CT foot ascender. They're very common, about £35. That goes on either the right or left foot, depending on which foot ascender you get. So this is a right-footed foot ascender. Another thing you'll need, it's not essential, but it's very much recommended, is a knee ascender. Right here I've got the Haas knee ascender. This is a little foot loop that you cinch onto your left foot, a bungee cord that tends itself. And another thing you'll need is some sort of chest harness to clip your system into. A very simple and cheap way of making some sort of chest attachment point is an old retired hitch cord. This is a perfect length for me, and a little tool clip. So you just wear that round your neck and then clip the system onto there, and it seems to tend up perfectly. You can buy specific bungee neck tethers, and you can buy specific chest harnesses, but this works for me. So we've got a line in the tree, we've got our other end base tied at the base of the tree. A little trick with the Haas, it's all dependent on leg position, and you might need to adjust the bungee to get a full stride, so that's just from practice. I like to clip mine here. I know a lot of people clip it in onto somewhere here or at the bottom, but here's perfect for my leg position. So you want to clip yourself into the harness. So the hardest part is getting started, so I like to take a step up with my foot ascender only first. A couple of steps up. Once you're about 2 meters off the ground, then you can clip the rest of your devices in. So I like to start with my knee ascender, like so. And I like to go with my chest ascender or neck tether. You go into the middle hole of the hitch climber. Then it's just about little baby steps. Keeping your arms aren't holding your weight, they're just keeping you upright. So it's more holding like this, just to keep you close and nice and neat to the rope. You just take nice little steps as you go up. Once you start getting into a rhythm, you can start increasing your steps and increasing your strides. And then your arms are just keeping you up in an upright position. If you get to a limb like this, you almost can't get your hands in, so you can just roll your body to the side and almost reach past it. I see a lot of people struggling with that. So you're almost into the crown now. I'll go a little bit higher. So to do with disconnecting your system, the Ascent is done, so you've got no use for these pieces of equipment now. So I like to take them off in reverse order. So chest ascender first, then knee ascender. Sometimes with these ascenders, I see people struggling to get them off. It just means you've got weight in that ascender, so just de-weight it and it will come right off. I like to store that knee ascender on my belt. So with these harnesses, a good way to store them is just clip that to there so it's nice and compact, and then clip that to your harness. And then foot ascender last. So now I'm free from the Ascent system. Now it's all about climbing the tree. I'm into the crown, so I'll just swing across and I'll strap myself in here. So you've taken the system off, passed it through where you want to go, you pull it back to yourself and clip yourself in. Now this is great. You can keep ascending up as you go. I tend to like to climb with 2 ropes, one SRT and one DRT. I like to get to my top of my SRT for ascent and then climb up with my DRT. I find that a little bit safer, but because we're recreationally climbing today, and a lot of the Americans don't climb on 2 ropes, we're just going to do it like this. So once you've fed your line through, with that tail, you want to feed it in the direction that you want to go now. So feed it all the way down to that side of the tree. So there you go, now you've got a nice redirect in the position you want to go. This will be emulating sort of a reduction if you were wanting to access this side of the tree. If it was a fell, this again would be quite a good position. I'd probably have a second line in that centre, main anchor there. But especially if you were doing a reduction and you wanted to do this side, you'd probably redirect your line here. It lets you access this side of the tree. Then you'd go back into the middle and then maybe put a line in that centre and go do that side of the tree. So now we're in position and we can start doing some of the limb walks. So I'll go over here and set up the GoPro just to get a position on this limb walk, and I'll show you what I mean about limb walking. This kind of goes over limb walking in general, but it's slightly different SRT. So I'll just go over there now, see if we can get a jump. Just jumped over there. So here we go. Limb walking out, my anchor's slightly in front of me so I can sort of face towards the limb here. So as you're coming up, you want to be tensioning your line, and I'm about to go past the point of my anchor. I'm now going out further than my anchor point. So instead of continuing forward face on, you really want to face your anchor point. Start walking almost sideways or backwards towards where you want to get to. So you want to have a bit of tension in your system. You don't want it to be nice and slack, you want it to be taut and with a bit of wiggle room. When you've got the rope wrench like this, sometimes it helps to collapse from the top, helps you get out a bit more. So you want to start leading with one of your hands, sort of body half facing the anchor point, and putting a bit of weight in that line. So I want to go round this, so coming round, using your hands to keep yourself nice and safe, following along, up you go, leading with one hand, sort of half facing that line, continuing, and you can get right out to the tips. You can strap yourself in, and see here, you've made some sort of triangulation. Something that's important when you want stabilisation, when you want to be nice and secure on the end of limbs, if you've got to do some chainsaw pruning, you want to create triangulation. There's no point anchoring, my anchor point's up there and my side strap putting it down here. I'm not creating any sort of triangulation. Somewhere here, nice and strong, either on both to the side Ds, it's quite good, a bit more stability, it's to both side Ds. You've created that triangulation of the lines and you're nice and solid here. You can fling yourself around and you're not going anywhere. When you want to go back in, you just disconnect and walk yourself backwards in sideways. On a limb like this, it's so strong, even without the ropes. I could be on the tips here and I could be jumping around, and this limb is not going to snap. It's far too thick. On thinner limbs and certain species of tree like poplar and willow, the limb might fail if you're right on the end. So you've got to put a proportion of your body weight into that line, and that's where it becomes very important, because I've seen it happen before. It's happened to me once before, where a limb breaks from beneath your feet and it's not really a very nice feeling. Luckily nothing was damaged and I wasn't hurt, but it can happen, and it probably will happen sometime in your career. But coming in, you're disconnected, you don't want to be still connected with your strap. Bring yourself back in. Now you want to slacken yourself enough so you can manoeuvre around, but you don't want too much slack once again. Now this is a bit of a tricky situation with this branch here. You will come across branches like this when you're trying to come back in. On the approach up, I went round this side. I feel like on the way down I'm going to go round the back side, so it's easily done. I can just flip my tail round. Now my tail is on that side, and you can quite simply slide down the limb. And go under the branch. If this was a nice lovely prune, you really want to keep these branches. You don't want to be taking off everything in your path. You need to work with the tree, and that's when excellent climbing comes into place. You're not just cutting everything off in your path. If it was a fell, you'd get rid of it, probably on the way up. Walk yourself nicely back into the stem. Let's do another example. So I'll quickly talk about redirects. I don't think we're going to go over canopy ties in this video. Obviously you can do a run and bowl line up to the top. You can use all sorts of systems, retrievable canopy ties, but that's maybe for another video. But redirects, it's very important. You can redirect with that base tie, so you just use this line and you can either disconnect and place it through, sort of a natural redirect. That is what I tend to use, especially if I'm not coming back up to the top. So if my final limb on this tree was just to do down there, I'd do a natural redirect through this crotch, I'd do the limb down there, and then I can zip down to the floor and I can pull the whole system out from the ground. If I was to use a sling, which I have on my belt here, and do a sling redirect, I'll have to come back up and get that sling. So natural redirects are really nice, but it adds a lot of friction. So we're going to do an example limb walk limb down there on that slightly smaller limb that has a potential to snap off, and my main anchor doesn't suffice for going out on the tips. So I've come up here and I'm going to do a redirect to more allow me to get to that position more easily without snapping off that limb or going in for a horrible swing into the base of the tree. So a natural redirect, like I said, exactly the same as when we were advancing up at the top, but now it's just out on the side of the crown. So you just take your system off, you post it through somewhere nice and strong, and you clip it back to yourself. It's as easy as that. That is your redirect. You now post the line in the position you want to go. This is when stopper knots are really important, because my line was not far off the ground already when I was straight vertically up and down. So this line might not actually touch the ground. Let's see. So it just touches the ground. It's probably maybe a foot off the ground. So it's very important to put that stopper knot in so you don't go slipping off the edge. But there you go. That's a natural redirect. When you do any sort of redirect like this, you need to make sure you tension up that line, because there will be slack in that line. It's not always taut. So now I'm going to go down there and position you guys in a way that you can see me on this slightly thinner limb walk. Hello. How you doing?
Alright. Oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I see you up there.
Yeah, I'm just filming a video for YouTube. So this limb walk's a lot thinner, so you want to pick the most direct route from you to the anchor point. So that's probably round the side here. If you just strop in, rather than scrambling round, you can strop yourself in. Take your rope off there. And just pass it straight back to you, rather than scrambling round. Position the rope where you want to go. That way. And then off you go. So you want to keep your line nice and taut. Because this limb's a lot thinner, there's a risk of snap outs. So you want to start leaning into the rope. If you're upright, it means all the weight is on that limb. If you're leaning away, it means a proportion of your body weight is up on top of that anchor. You will often find that you're sort of in a void space. This can be quite scary for new climbers. There's obviously nothing for me to hang on to here, so I'm reliant on balance and also which side of the limb you're on. Because that's the position of my anchor point, and I'm now facing my anchor, and I'm on this side of the limb, I'm almost standing sort of a 45-degree angle. If you were to stand totally upright, again, more weight is on that limb, and you're now on a balance beam. But if you lean back, that rope wasn't there, I'd fallen straight off. Because I'm leaning into the rope, I'm using the rope to climb, and that's how you can get out on these crazy limb walks. So I'll go a little further. I can actually bend down and grab onto this for support. Position myself out. You can really see this limb starting to bend now. You need to keep your weight in the rope. This is something I'll go over maybe when I'm on the ground, but it's important that your bridge is positioned so you can still reach your system on full extension. Some people have real long bridges and they can't reach the system when they're on full extent. So I like to shorten my bridge so I can always reach my system even on full extent. within the canopy. I'm going to get back round on this side of the limb now. So I've finished my works. The base tie goes all the way up to the main anchor, it comes across and then right back down. And that's a perfect example of a redirect. You started there and end up there. And what's amazing about base ties is now we're done, we can untie this and just pull from that end and it'll feed nicely all out and you finish for the day. So there you go guys, that's probably the most basic SRT setup you can really do. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it was at least interesting to watch, even if you didn't learn anything. It is sort of more structured towards beginners, but it's also fun to watch someone else climb and how they do things, and different body types and different builds will approach things in a different way. You just got to work to your strengths. If you're a really tall, skinny climber, you can reach out and grab things, and you can get to positions that a smaller climber might not be able to. If you're nice and small and flexible like me, you can bend yourself in positions and get out. If you're a bigger climber, a bit stronger, that will really help with the fells and hoisting yourself up, pushing big chogs off. You just got to work to your strengths. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it's fun to watch. See you later.